Hi guys, it's Stephanie. Sunday, July 18th. I'm back here again at my favorite location here by the water, the Intracoastal in Bradenton. And I don't live very far from here. I got here about 10 minutes ago and I had to do a restart because people keep popping up near the vehicle and parking here. And then a little red helicopter keeps flying by. So anyways, I'm a little bit tired right now. I went to bed very late last night. I usually don't go to bed that late, only because I had today off, you know. But to me, it was well worth it. I got to speak with my friend, and we had some very deep conversations. But there's other things I'd like to touch on here, and we'll get that started as soon as I come back. Yeah, so anyway, I've been keeping my eye out on the news, and I'm seeing that there's a lot of transgender protests that are going on around the world. It's not just in America, it's around the world. And I think the media is trying to convey that there's a transgender movement. I'm not sure what the movement is, but it's just groups of transgender people fighting for the transgender rights. Now, it could have a positive effect or a negative effect on us transgenders because we're a very small minority group. We are all under the same umbrella of the LGBT movement, but in all, we are a very small minorities, even though it's said that there's 100,000 people undergoing sex changes every year. Now, I said sex changes. I'm not talking about transgender, because a lot of times these days, people who are transgender have no intentions on changing their sex physically. They're okay with who they are, and they're still identifying as transgender or trans woman or trans man, but that doesn't make them a transsexual. Transsexualism, where people undergo a sex change, there's over 100,000 people every year going through a sex change in this country alone. The topic of the conversation is, however, as a trans person, whether you're now genetically male or female and you've gone through the process of physical changes or not, the transgender movement affects us nonetheless, no matter what your status is, whether your ID says female or male. And by the way, as of a few years ago, some states and some countries do not require you to have a sex change in order to change your gender marker on your documents, like driver's license, birth certificate. Some states, if you don't have a sex change, you cannot change your birth certificate to the appropriate gender marker that you now present or identify as, okay, unless you had a sex change. Some states, it's okay, they'll do it. Anyways, not to get into a tangent about sex changes and gender markers, this conversation is mostly about protests. What effect, whether positive or negative, can protests have on your life as an individual? Okay. We are such a small number of people, minorities, that in my job where I work, I'm the only trans person or trans woman in my store, okay, where I work, of over 250 people, okay. In the corporate wide, I don't have any figures to tell you how many trans people there are, and there are over 2,000 stores in my company, in my corporation. Okay. Now, let's just concentrate in my store. I'm the only trans woman in my store. Now, when you have the general media or mainstream news running news on every protest that we're experiencing or following, there's going to be some negative effects that's going to be felt by the general public or society, okay? So, cisgender people may or may not find it bothersome. They'll just go on with their life, go to work, and go about their daily business. Others may see it as an excuse to disrespect trans people. This is why some college students, when they're debating Ben Shapiro on YouTube or any media platform, they tell him that what he's doing is he's possibly spurring on violence against the trans community. And Ben Shapiro always says prophetically, no, I'm not. If I was to go out with a trans person that I know who changed their genders, I would totally respect them and call them out by their correct pronouns and their proper name that they are legally. Maybe so, but when you're always hammering society on the multimedia that regardless whether we've had a sex change or not, or we identify as a woman or a man or whatever, when you're always hammering us that we're always going to be the gender that we were born as and we can't change it, you're also telling the cisgender population that we're not that gender that we are now identifying as by going through all these changes, okay? By going all through these changes, that we should still be seen as the gender we were born. And I agree with the students. I don't agree with Ben Shapiro one bit, because it doesn't make sense. If he supports a friend who has gone through changes and identifies as the gender he feels to be, then why can't you just back off these beliefs that you're always going to be the gender you were born? Okay, whether you go through physical changes or not, if you identify as a man or a woman, the opposite that you were born, why can't we just be respected? Okay? When you're always hammering this in society on multi-stream media, then you're enforcing these belief systems, your belief systems, Ben Shapiro's, in their mind. That it's okay to go to your job or to any public place and disrespect us. Okay? This is why there are protests. Okay? The downside of the protest is that we are such a small community, way much smaller than the gay community, that we're going to start seeing the effects and some disrespect and possible violence from neo-Nazi groups, religious groups, and some cisgender people that do not support us. Backlashes. And that can be devastating. You know, like I said, at my store, the company where I work at, I'm the only trans woman in the whole store. Possibly the whole district. So in my district, if I decide to leave my store because I'm experiencing harassment, then that means that no matter what store I go in my district, it can be possible unfairness or hatred things that can be done to me. You know, that's going to make me feel uncomfortable. It make me always on the run, which I'm not going to do. I'm going to stand up and fight for my rights. I have already felt the wrath of prejudice based on being a trans woman at work. Okay, when I was harassed by an assistant manager, I complained to corporate, filed a complaint, and the manager was fired. Okay, I appreciate that. I appreciate the fact that my human resource committee and those people that investigated found that he was culpable. You know, in that sense, I'm happy. But still, why should I put in a position to experience that? I shouldn't. You know, it's going to be some tough times coming up for us trans people. It really will be. And there are times when I go to work and I really feel uptight. I'm a very, very, very sensitive person, and I can pick up some negative vibrations even when people are not around me. Just the air is stifling. Okay? And that stifleness to me is caused by, whether you believe it or not, what's going on in society. You know? So it's not a good thing. But at the same time, protests are good in that we're laying the ground foundation for all the young trans people coming up that can possibly have a better life than what we did. And I know that protests work because progressively, since we have a lot older trans people that came out years and years ago, like 1940s and 50s and 60s, they also fought for their right. They were also visible. So whatever they did through the years have contributed to some of my comfort that I experience and appreciate. And therefore, it's happening now more so than ever because there are more people coming out, and because we have technology such as the internet, we can communicate a lot quicker. We can use the general media as an outlet. We can form committees. We can come together as one and unite. But there are repercussions, you know, and within history, there's always been repercussions, like in the 1960s with the women's movement and the women's liberation, when Gloria Steinem was up there supporting women's rights, and Jane Fonda, you know. So just kind of makes me a little bit uneasy that groups of people or political groups or religious groups or other people can't see that we're just human beings. We're all human beings. So why are one group of human beings going against another group of human beings as if they have more right? You know? There are trans people in colleges. There are trans people in law enforcement, in the medical field. So it's nothing new. Why can't we just let people be? Why? What is the problem? And to me, if you ask me, one of the big source of problem is the media. The media and the religious movement. Okay, particularly Christianity. Yep. And earlier when I said this is globally, I really mean it's globally. It's happening all around the world. It's happening in Australia, it's happening in England, it's happening all around the world, including Russia. All around the globe, trans people are standing up and they're protesting. Today there was a protest in Los Angeles a few hours ago, and the police was there in riot gear. And it's supposed to be a peaceful protest, but it really wasn't. You know, we have to do what we have to do. We have to stand up for our rights. If I was there, I'd be there carrying a sign, as long as it's peaceful. We don't know where all this is going to lead. And it's happening at a time where there's so much stress going on in the world. And things are so uncertain. Okay? And we're reaching a precipice. Hope I said that correct. But this is what I wanted to talk about. And it's always on my mind. And at the same time, I'm trying to live a life. And I'm sure other people, whether trans or cisgender, gay or straight, black or white, Chinese or European, doesn't matter. We all just want to live a life, you know. We're all trying to live a life where time is uncertain. So I'm going to go ahead and just wrap this up here. I hope that this resonates with you, and if it does, if you have the same thoughts in your mind, if you're trans or straight, maybe you have a family member who's a trans person, or a friend or a neighbor or worker, and if you do, then you know what I'm talking about. We're just people, and we just want to get along, and we love and we want to be loved. We just want to coincide. So I want to say thanks to all my subscribers who have been really, very faithful in the past couple of months. And also, if you're in my channel now visiting for the first time, don't forget to hit that subscribe key and also hit that top bell so you can get future notifications of my uploads. I hope you guys have a nice day, and I'll be seeing you guys throughout the week. Bye-bye.